And we are live with Chris Tate. Chris, how are you today?
I'm doing excellent, Mike. How are you today?
Not too bad. So Chris joins us, by the way, from California, but he's also been in the booth with us at Dayton at times. And I didn't ask you. We've been chatting for a few minutes. How's your air quality today?
The air quality index is green today, which it means that we are not inundated with smoke. But a couple of weeks ago, looking out my garage here, it kind of looked a little like the Martian atmosphere. So we're grateful to have clean, breathable air today.
I do a podcast every 2 weeks too with George Zaff on Ham Radio Workbench, so I get the daily. We're recording another one tonight, and they're short. They're only like 3 hours, so I give them a hard time. Hi, and hello, Delta Lima 9 Bravo Bravo Echo, and I am going to learn how to pronounce your name correctly, sir, at some point in time. So, and Chris is new to this, so you can see him pop up. I can pop it up on the screen, and we get some pretty good DX as well. And by the way, if you're looking for the internet falling apart, there's some serious stuff going on. Burned, BERND. And so, hey, Kevin, yeah, there's it's not just us. There's a lot of stuff going on. So if you can't get somewhere, something's been hacked. I'll let you do your own homework. And that's of the today, which is today, October the 16th. It's a Friday afternoon. Hey, Tim. And yeah, so it's going to be interesting. I guess we got it close. It's going to be an interesting day, and Chris, I've sort of gotten bored with HF, and then it comes and goes, right? I love my contesting because CQ Worldwide's coming up, and so I've been trying to listen for some 6-meter moon bounce and getting closer, but it's got me going. I think I'm going to build a UHF array and see if I can work a couple of guys just to say I did on 6-meter moon bounce. Hey, Stu, how are you?
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. Yeah, you know that as a member of our vast Bay Area contesting community here, I'm involved with a couple of superstations. One of them, of course, is the N6RO station, which is very, very well known. But I also have a hilltop station that we used to call K6LRG, large radio. And some of the team members at K6LRG are moon bounce enthusiasts. And they just erected a 6-meter EME array, and we're testing it out last weekend. I guess there was a contest of some kind. And so the guys were testing out the new toy, and so that station is a really neat hilltop station at 2,000 feet ASL, and so those guys are playing with moon bounce now too.
So one of my buddies who's got in legal limit and JT65, I can only run 750 watts in Canada. That's just our law. So RTTY, CW and sideband, we can go to full. It's debatable how you interpret the law that was written, of course, in the 50s. 2250 at the antenna.
Right.
So you can take out, which is nice. The total difference, right? Not at the connector.
750 watts.
I stay pretty close to it. By the way, I bought a LP 100A watt meter, and it sits on the back of the PGXL, and it, other than peak envelope power calculations, which, as you know, is hard to do correctly, right? It takes a lot of bits to make it right. It's really accurate. I'm pretty pleased. I know that John and the guys in Renko do a lot of work with the calibration. Oh, Tim, you didn't. 4x8 with elevation for 6 meters. We maybe got to get you on to talk about that, because that is a big antenna array. And I assume you're using prop pitch motors for elevation, or do you run out and because the moon moves slowly, you can almost hand move it if you had to, right? So Tim, drop me an email. Maybe we'll have you in and we'll chat about it. I'd love to hear more about it. And I assume you're using something like a 6600 on it as well. So that'd be cool. JP's out today. He's got to do a run across Austin to the airport. And so he can't make it. And I had to run across the top end of Toronto for a quick doctor appointment, and they were on time. So although they've just shut down my area to what we call, I guess it's level 2 again. So we've dialed back. What have we dialed back? So gyms, theaters, restaurants are all closed again. You can do takeout. And yeah, there we go. Prop pitch motors. You need that torque. You could almost do it in hydraulics, I guess.
Kurt is a great guy, and Kurt is actually a regular at N6RO, K7NV, and those prop pitch rotors are the stuff. They're tough.
I'm working at getting I've got a Rotor Genius I have to finish integrating for my simple stepper, but that's at the remote. But here at the house, my buddy Ken VA3SK was actually heard in Switzerland on ground gain. Now Ken's got this beautiful. You know how I do the lecture that says anywhere you've got great HF operating, you got bad internet? Well,
yeah.
His top speed is 5 meg down and 1 up. So, and that's that's on an RF link. So,
well, we've done some pretty spectacular remoting at N6RO. You know, with all of this, with all of these restrictions and various lockdowns and stuff like that. It's been interesting to try and keep multi contesting alive. You know, one of the great things that happens in a multi contest environment is you have all of these super fantastic ham radio operators all gathering in a room. And unfortunately, with the pandemic and wanting to keep all these guys safe, and some of them aren't exactly the spryest young folks in the world. Yeah. You know, to keep all these folks safe, how do you preserve that? And so what we did was we set up multiple remotes using FlexRadio and SmartLink and various technologies, so we could get the whole multi contest shack QRV. And yeah. I don't know if you heard us during the California QSO party, or you may have been watching us on the scoreboard last week during the Mac Rothan RTTY contest, but we've been very, very successful in maintaining our level of presence on HF as a multi contest station, when many of the other stations in Europe or some of the Eastern Atlantic islands have decided to QRT because they just aren't prepared or don't have the like you said, internet and HF don't necessarily always jive, don't have the facility to do that. So, you know, we feel really fortunate to have been able to leverage a lot of the FlexRadio technologies to make that happen.
Oh yeah, well, we saw it was public that Tim K3LR and W3LPL will be shutting down their multi, and I'm sure that's not a decision done lightly, but done safely. Okay, and so Tim, I got your information. I'll get in touch with you. I love SmugMug. I pay for their commercial stuff. If you're a photographer, stuff just works. So we'll talk 6-meter boom bets. Okay, so let's get going. We're chewing through a bit of time here, so we don't have to listen to JP's sales commercial today, but we are doing trade-ins. We've done a bunch of trade-ins this week. It's been great. I've had some interesting talks with people. I invited Chris to join. We were going to have Lou, but Lou had a change, and so Chris knows Lou really well too. So we'll get Lou in a couple of weeks. So we could pick on Lou too, because he'd pick on us.
Oh yeah, he always does.
He's from the Northeast. He'd just pick on us. So we'll talk to Lou's about his Everyman station. It was pretty cool. So Tim's from the West Coast. He is part of a very big contest station called N6RO. He's also on the Flex Alpha team. He's also our contest captain, I guess, from a FlexRadio advisor perspective. Chris is really good about finding a lot of things that he would like to work a little differently, and tells us about it, but that's okay. We do hear, and sometimes we're surprised with what we hear, but quite often we already know. So hi, Don and Steve. And then one more thing, you've heard us talk about remote operating, and And Chris is actually, can I say this? Your boss is also a ham. And
Right.
and Alan, if you want to know who got me started with Node Red, it was Andreas,
My
Chris's
boss,
his boss. So
N6NU.
and so he quietly hides in the dark, right? But he's a contributor a lot. So Chris, what brought you into ham radio, and how long ago was that?
Well, I'm actually one of those odd ducks. I was a late bloomer. I actually pulled my ticket in 2007. So I've only
Wow,
been a
that's
ham
like,
radio operator since 2007. But in an interesting transition into how ham radio came to be for me, because I was sitting in a ham radio store and kind of looking for a new HT or whatever, shack on a belt kind of deal that I was looking for. And I heard something, and what was going on was the November sweepstakes phone contest was turned on a radio in that ham radio store, and I started listening, and I said, "Wow, this sounds really, really exciting." I was listening to a big running contest station, and he had that authoritative contest voice and had hundreds of people calling him. And I was just like, I've got to do that. I've got to do that. And so by 2008, I started cobbling together what would become the K6LRG Hilltop station. I was working for a wireless ISP at the time, so we had good internet up on the hill. And we started constructing. We put a tri-bander up and started contesting on our own up there. And during one of those contests, I heard a very, very, very overwhelming signal in my pass, very close to my passband. So I turned over and I heard this CQ contest, N6RO. And they were working people that I couldn't hear. So I found out that they were just 14 miles away from K6LRG. And talked to some folks, got involved with the Northern California Contest Club, and ended up meeting Ken Keeler, N6RO, who has had that station for 50 years. And as always, he's a CQ Contest Hall of Fame operator. And he was inducted to the CQ Contest Hall of Fame for helping other hams get involved in contesting. So I got involved with the N6RO station about that time. By the time 2010 came along, I was president of the Northern California Contest
3 years.
3 years. Within 3 years, I was president of the Northern California Contest Club, and the rest is kind of been a skyrocketing history of just getting better, more involved, working harder. Starting to win contests and really enjoying the avocation. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I've been involved with FlexRadio for quite a long time. I think it's 7 years now that I've been on Flex Alpha. And it's been a really, really interesting journey to watch the Flex Signature series develop from where it was then to what it is now. And yeah, go ahead.
I was going to interrupt you. I was going to think the first time I really met you was Dayton in the basement when Gerald unveiled the Maestro. And we both said, I'm glad you didn't make it small.
Yeah, the Maestro is a really, really integral part of my contest station now. I'm a big fan of using it, and Smart Control has been amazing because now we can use Smart SDR for Windows, up on a screen like that and control all the functions of the radio with the Maestro, which really makes it so we can do some pretty fancy stuff in the contest world. I've taken a more of a path toward being sort of a RTTY contesting expert, although I do operate SSB and sideband contests. But I've had a lot of success.
I'm going to put your picture up now, so he'll have to tap dance the mouse here a bit, but you're going to get some video echo.
Let me make it big. if the Mac
He's like me. He's a Mac person. How do I make it big? Push the green button. That was.
Oh, I've got this. There you go. So can you? Is that showing okay now?
Perfect. Yeah, talk through it. I'll just make it a little bigger.
Great. So this is my operating position at the N6RO station.
And you can move your mouse over it, by the way. We can see your mouse.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, there it is. Yep.
So what we got going on here is one of the advantages of RTTY contesting is it's almost like a gateway drug to SO2R. Because, and the reason for that is because you don't have to use your brain to either decode CW or to try and struggle through an SSB contest. So since the computer's doing most of the work for you as far as that, it frees up more clock cycles to do more interesting things with multiple radios and multiple and try and increase your score. And so what we've got going on here is my ARRL RTTY roundup setup. And this becomes more and more interesting as the solar cycle progresses, because what I'm using here are two 6600Ms, two PGXLs, two computers to drive 4 slices, 4 radios, one on each band.
And he lives in a trailer or a tent, but
so if you look down here,
are you running 2 copies of N1MM or 4 or 1?
Two copies of N1MM.
Because it can only handle 2 radios, right?
That's correct. WriteLog could actually handle all 4.
Oh, really?
But in this, but in this, just to kind of make everything work properly, I needed to use 2 computers, and I used 2 network copies of N1MM. And what I've done is I've strung interlock cables. For those of you who don't know, you can actually plug in RCA cables that will prevent transmit on another radio to keep you honest during the contest.
Yes. This is built in, by the way. This is built in. Every other radio, you've got to build you've got a complicated interrupt box. Although I think the K series has got it reasonably simplified, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So, but what's nice is I'm driving basically 4 radios, and that interlock, those interlock cables are handling everything for me to keep me from getting into trouble. And then the the N1MM inter stuff is a second line of defense. So if you see here, I've got 2 mice, and in order for me to do, let's take a step back. So in order to make lots and lots of QSOs in a contest, one of the most popular ways of doing that is called 2BSIQ, or 2 band sequentially interleaved QSOs. And so what that means is you're CQing on band A and band B. People are calling you. You're sending an exchange on one while you're saying, and then when you complete that, you're saying thank you to the next. With RTTY, because I don't have to worry about the decoding of the CW and decoding or struggling through an SSB QSO, I'm able to basically do that on 3 bands simultaneously. So
with 1 transmitter being legal.
So 3, only 1 transmitted signal per band, at a time. And so what I'm doing is using these 2 mice ambidextrously to maintain that workflow. And so you kind of get a rhythm. And when you get a big pileup on 3 of these bands, I mean, it's the first time I ever actually started sweating in a contest physically, because there was so much going on that it was just blowing my mind. Usually the 4th band would be, like, for instance, in this case, monitoring 10 meters, right? So I've got band number 4, monitoring 10 meters. Somebody pops up there. I could jump over there instantly, work that station, send a couple of CQs if there's some action there, and make the choice to shift the 3-band focus up to maybe 10, 15, and 20.
Right. And what's a big difference over I love RTTY contesting. I think it's great. Is before you were forever dialing, but now with the band awareness and a pen adapter, I not only can I just go to the guy, I can go to the guy and I can put my mark right on the right space. And the next time he calls CQ, I've got him, as opposed to having to, and I still love the oscilloscope crosshairs tuning, but that's what I grew up on. And, if you've never tried an RTTY contest, it's great. It's not quite as crowded as dealing with, let's say WPX or CQ Worldwide. We just did the CQ RTTY was a couple of weeks ago. It was fine for me. I was quite happy with the score I had, although the weather here in Ontario was so amazing. I really didn't want to be in a chair, but had it been pouring rain, I would have worked 40 hours. That's awesome, Chris.
I'm the contest manager for CQ Worldwide Radio.
I was just going to say that.
and let me just
when you get through this a bit, let's talk a bit about, though, if you were just a single person, you've got a single radio, a 6,000 series of anything, what would you recommend? But we can come back to that. So carry on with finish your story.
Let me just really quick just point out a couple of things. If you see here, I've got my Maestro and my 6600M. And the Maestro, because the other 6600M and PGXL are on the other side of the shack. So, we're really showcasing, some of the flexibility of the platform here. But I'm running smart control on both. So I have tactile knob control of all 4 radios by using a Maestro and the other 6600M. So, so that's really what I wanted to showcase. And then you can see I got an LP100 too. I love that thing. Great watt meter. So that's kind of it. I can plot this down and we can go back to where we were at if that's what you'd like to do.
Okay, I'll remove you from there. And so if I'm new to Don's asking what antenna to use for each band, or so if you want to run through that quickly.
So this is a super station. And so I have a 5/5/5 stack at 100 feet on 10 meters.
Remember I said he lived in that tent?
A 5/5/5 stack on 15 meters, a 5/5/5 stack on 20 meters, a 4/4 stack, by the way, 20 through 40, all the towers at 140 feet. It's a 4/4 stack of KLM antennas on 40. On 80, I have a 4 square and a 2x2L cubicle quad antennas to either switch between long distance type of contacts versus domestic type of contacts. And on 160 meters, I have a 4 square antenna, a Sal 30, and a couple of beverage antennas. So, it's just your average backyard ham station.
That's amazing. That doesn't, and I know, believe me, I know Chris has put a lot of time in this. I've probably known you for 5 or 6 years, and it's been quite something. So, what would you recommend for the new contester who just wants to get into RTTY contesting?
Well, I'll tell you what. One of the things that we do at N6RO is we bring in new contesters on a regular basis. And just a few weeks ago, we got a new general class ham radio operator who came wondering what all these big towers were and poking around. And he basically was like I was in 2007. His shack was on his belt, but he was very, very interested in getting involved. And
you like Peter's comment? He's not wrong.
Yes, that's true. There is a metric there. I'm basically off the scale on that, unfortunately. It is a quite an avocation that we have here, but it's cheaper than owning a yacht. But anyway, of course, Mike could probably attest to that because he's got a boat and a boathouse and stuff like that. So, but anyway,
I just married it. I did the other way. I married into it.
Yeah, I don't think too many of us married into radio. Contesting specifically, and certainly it probably has more of a reverse effect. Anyway, so Dave, this new guy with us, started asking questions and working with us, and we have all kinds of equipment at the station. We have super hets. It's a 50-year-old station. But Ken's been really gracious to allow us to bring in this new flex technology. It was new and new to him. And this new ham decided that he wanted to, after seeing what he saw and going through his process, decide that he wants to get a flex radio for his house. And he's got a gap antenna that we found for him and gave to him so he could set up, and he wants to get a Flex. So he's made the decision to go with the Flex 6400 because he doesn't really see himself doing anything with two bands simultaneously per se. And he will have more of a simple setup. But for somebody that's really interested in RTTY, I would steer people toward the 6600 just because you will quickly learn that you can actually run on both those bands at the same time. And so, you know, it's really a decision of what you think you're going to do. And if you think that you've learned the RTTY and it's getting boring and you're operating on one band, you may start with a 6400, leverage the Flex trade-up program, get a 6600. That's what I did. I know that I've leveraged the Flex trade-up program several times in order to change things around a little bit to kind of accommodate what I need to do. But the other thing that I wanted to mention to new RTTY operators is how easy it is to set up the Flex to do all this stuff as compared to what it used to be with the other radios. Back in the old days, we needed to have cables, sound cards, audio levels, FSK breakout boxes and cables, and it was extremely, extremely difficult and intimidating. But I can tell you that if
the cabling was phenomenal.
You know, it was extremely arduous to get all this stuff to be a RTTY operator back in those days. When I got the Flex, I can tell you that I could set my Flex up not only for RTTY contesting, but RTTY with multiple decoders, set up the complete N1MM package, get everything ready, and I can get it all done in about 15 minutes. Literally. I don't have to worry about cabling. I don't have to worry about anything. So, you know, even at N6RO, that SO4R setup took me about half hour to get going. And that included installing.
I did it the other day in about 15 minutes, you know, but I should be able to do it in 15 minutes, as should you. But it's, I was just going to say, even my straight man Peter got it figured out. You know, he kept. Peter texts me and goes, "I'm stuck here," and I'm usually on the phone or something. And so I by the time I get to him, he's got it figured out. So I want to, you know, it's just gotten so easy as well, and you can be competitive just on a wire. And there's I've got mentoring clause here that, and Chris, I'm sure you say it as well. If you're this has nothing to do with Flex. This is Mike as a ham operator. This is you know, Steve Hicks says the same things in his presentation. Is, you know, bring in new people, mentor new people. If you've got something sitting on your, you know, on your bench, under the bench in a box, don't worry about selling it for $50. You probably don't really need the $50. Give it away to a new ham. If it gets them on the air, whether it's on 2 meters, DMR, D-Star, HF, a QRP rig, balloons, give it away. If he's going to use it, perfect. Just tell, and as the instructions that were given to me when I was 15, use it as long as you have. I'm done with it. Don't sell it. Give it away to the next guy. And if you break it, break it. No big deal. You probably learned something by breaking it.
And fixing it.
and fixing it. Yeah, we had one of our alpha members, you saw the email this morning, who inadvertently, he got the 20 dB warning on the screen about RF overload. And I don't know if everybody knows this, but this radio is really well protected in the front end. I've had customers who live near AM broadcast sites, and they get this 20 dB warning from RF overload. They said, well, you know, my Kenwood ICOM Yaesu whatever never had this problem. And I said, oh yeah, it did. You didn't know about it, you know, about front end overload, but the radio is protected. So our alpha member was really concerned. So I said, he had a 6600, said, well, have a listen to a signal on both spectral capture units, because it's like two radios. And he came back, said, oh yeah, it seems to be fine. Yep, go ahead, away you go. Jose's got it right. Breaking stuff is fun. As I was telling, go ahead.
You know what's really interesting? Hey, Hector, good to see you. What's really interesting is that the his actually invoked the relays. So the radio will produce multiple levels of front end protection. It'll send you an alert and if it's at a certain level, it'll give you a chance to peel back. But if it gets nailed with something, the relays will click and it'll shut the radio off. It'll literally cut the circuit, and that's why his radio still works now.
Yeah,
his radio's fine.
I think we have to thank Steve and Eric and Gerald for that, because Steve with his, Steve was a rover, right? And you blow up preamps. If you're a rover, you blow them up all the time if you're a VHF, UHF rover. So I'm sure when they were designing this in the early days, all this stuff came to mind. That's why we have the USB RS-232 ports, which nobody else does. Right. And on the back, and if you don't know about that, feel free to ask me. Or the BCD or the bit data and all that stuff, which a lot of people haven't maybe cracked the cover on that. But then, heck, if you want a light to show up that says push to talk on the air, you can do it right out of the back of the radio.
Absolutely.
Okay, Don, what'd Don say here? Bought a radio for a young ham in Australia. Look at that. So it's a two-way street, and they bring new ideas. So tomorrow, I talked about moon bands, and I got a buddy of mine. I think I've said this before, we're getting into 10 gig some stuff, 10 gig things. And I could, 10 gig stuff didn't really interest me until they said, oh yeah, we're getting 500 kilometers to 1,000 kilometers off rain scatter. And I went, now I'm interested.
Talk to Andreas. Talk to Andreas. He's also, he's a 10G guy.
I should see what he's got in his junk pile. I think I've done it. I think he's got a few antennas I might need. So,
but I'm a hardcore HF guy. See, I'm up to no good here. What might I be doing with this piece of hardware here? I've actually got a stepper boom on my table here below the computer here, and I'm putting a two element beam together for the house here for my test environment.
I can answer this.
Yeah, Andrew, by the way, coming in from V5 there. Hi, Andrew. Nice to hear from you. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, no, I know what the answer is. So N6WM, which we recommend for a lot of reasons, does support multiple different types of RTTY decoders, but right out of the box, it's really good. I actually just use it right out of the box. I don't know if Chris, I know you run multiple decoders on the same slice all the time, right? Because some of them are a little bit better than others.
Right. So I use my preference, and there are several popular decoders, but MMTTY is just the one that I started with in the beginning. So and there have been some neat little tricks that have been set up in that to make it specially accommodate FlexRadio. There's actually a little checkbox in there to hide some of the extraneous audio devices to make MMTTY easier to set up with a FlexRadio than many other platforms.
That's the one that says use internal audio codec?
It actually specifically calls out FlexRadio. It says hide the DAX, the extra DAX IQ channels and stuff like that. Narrows it down to something that's a lot more intuitive to set up. And then in addition to that, another popular decoder that came up, 6-7 years ago was called two-tone.
Is it that long now?
Yeah. If you look at the two-tone webpage, there's like 40 different versions listed there. They're constantly updating it. And that I use three to four different instances of per slice at the same time. They got different algorithms: spread, select, flutter. What happens is after you've set all those up, you're going to have multiple windows in your digital interface.
Really?
In N6WM.
Yeah, they call it the DI.
And so you've got these multiple windows, and I'll be darned if sometimes one call sign shows up on one, doesn't show up on any of the others. Sometimes it shows up on all of them, but you can really see how that really, really quickly you could see that having multiple decoders is extremely valuable if you're really into heavy duty RTTY operating, and how it can really, these different algorithms can capture this stuff where others can't. And so I found that to be extremely important in my operating, especially here from W6, where I have to, my shot to Europe is a polar shot. I have to go over the North Pole to get to Europe. So you can imagine what that does to a digital signal as it transits over the top of the planet and makes it back here. So that's when I start seeing these other strange kind of there's even a decoder that's heuristic, and it actually tries to predict what the call sign's going to be coming through.
That comes from the moon bounce guys world, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, really interesting. So yeah, having multiple RTTY decoders really, really helps out in RTTY contesting and for long distance RTTY contacts like to V5. I think I could use V5 on digital, by the way. Keep an ear out for me.
I think I need him on 6. I keep saying I have to look. I mean, I have the advantage. I'm halfway to Europe. And then I whine about the guys on the East Coast in New Hampshire and Vermont, but I have to deal with not as much as Chris as the auroral cone. And if the aurora starts to come up, the California, they just go surfing, right? There's just and we can see the cone.
Or we wait until nighttime and we start working JAs, right? So.
Yeah, because there are times I do not get a JA run on, a JA run on 15 and worldwide. I'm good for hours if I can get one. And it really helps boost my base contacts. But there's enough auroral cone, not predictors, but that show where it is. And you can see on the Great Circle Route from Toronto that, we're just at that corner, and so I might be able to get the guys in Northern Africa or Italy, but, none of the Russians or the rest of it. Chris, you guys have a bigger battle. You get multiple hops away, and then I'll hear like the guys out in the West Coast or the East Coast in Vermont, New Hampshire, they're sitting there running away on 15, and I'll look at the waterfall and it's just blue, no yellow anywhere, no nothing.
We've got 3 CQ Contest Hall of Fame members in our contest shack at any one particular time, but we very rarely can win a worldwide contest from W6. But we compete with ourselves and we enjoy it. We enjoy contesting. We enjoy making the contest and comparing our score to the previous years and stuff like that. And that's really what it's all about, right? It's having fun. And we do that. And when that time happens, when we do get a good break, like the McCroffin distance-based scoring RTTY contest, we celebrate, right? Because we gotta win.
Absolutely, as you should. There's always something in a 48-hour contest that's really cool. And I've got a question here I'm going to pop up from Don, but because I want you to address it, because it's a very valid question for every RTTY operator. But there's always something cool in a contest, like you're running, and I thought it was a K5 calling me, and I drag him out of the mud, and it was a VK5. Okay, so those are not totally unusual for us, but you work in the South Pacific all the time. South Pacific's harder for us, but the strangest thing I've ever heard, and you really hear it on a sideband or CW contest when it happens. I'm running on 80 meters. It's Saturday night, and it's a long delayed echo. And I heard myself call CQ 4 seconds later. That's a lot of trips along. So where did that signal go for 4 seconds? And you could read about long delayed echoes, and I'm sure you've heard yourself, right?
Oh, absolutely. From when you have the phenomenal antennas that I'm blessed to be able to use. Strange things happen, I also commonly will work places like Los Angeles and Washington, backscatter as well. So it's nice having nice antennas, and it's nice when interesting things happen on HF. That's for sure.
Let's talk about heat and a FlexRadio, and I can tell you it's a really simple answer. Just it'll take care of itself. But Chris,
RTTY is a key down mode, and it is extremely it taxes the transmitters of radios very intensely. I've never had a problem with heat with a Flex 6000 series radio, never. In fact, I can tell you that the Flex 6000 and PGXL combination, like I said, think about what we're doing with a Flex radio, with especially a 6600 or a 6700. We're usually listening on 2 receivers, and we're only using 1 transmitter. And so we're doing double duty cycle of what a normal super het would be subjected against. And I still haven't had a problem with heat with the Flex 6000 series. I haven't had a problem with heat with the PGXL. And if you see up, up there, there's two RTTY Roundup plaques on the wall there. There's over here, there's a win for North American QSO Party, which is a low power contest, a 100-watt contest. And I did that using SO2R RTTY with a 6000 series radio, and for the Roundup, a 6000 series radio and a Power Genius XL. Both have been able to handle the duty cycles of a contest win. So, it really hasn't been a problem. Yes, they do get warmer. Yes, you are hitting them pretty hard, but they have their own sets of checks and balances to make sure nothing horrible happens during that process.
Really? Yeah, I get asked that on the put the PGXL on work, and I've tried to get it pretty warm. I thought, now I'm fortunate it's generally outside because it's in my boathouse, but I've used it in a summer event, 6-meter event, and I've gotten it to maybe 65. And I break all the rules, right? They say we want it in a box. We want 2 feet all around. I don't have room for 2 feet all around. My PGXL sits in a wooden box where it's barely got 6 inches all around. Now I've got a few extra fans moving it, but I can watch. I've got probes on my Node Red that says, hey, the amp shelf's up to 33 Celsius, but the PA and the amp sitting at 45, 46, and maybe the fans around. There's a ton of air moving, but I've never been concerned.
The robustness of both of them as far as transmit has been, really, really good. I'm fanatical about the PGXL. I'm a fan, right? I'm not promoting this because I work with FlexRadio. It's the right device for me, right? The fact that it can do the full integration and the 2 bands at the same time and handle that is what really, really makes it me just completely sold on that particular amplifier. And it's a beast. It handles it.
You can actually go ahead.
It's able to handle those duty cycles. Fans will turn on. Any RTTY contester will know that you get used to having fans, right? You got to have fans to cool this stuff down, and that's physics, right? But and you're hitting it hard, but boy, it just keeps on trucking.
I'll tell you, MEFA helps too. Let's go to the other end of the spectrum because Chris knows the product line well enough. One of the things you can take a 6300 and you can do SO2R ish, not real SO2R, but you can almost do 2-band SIQ on 6300, and I've done it. So you're on a contest or you're doing, and you want to be and you're running on 80, but it's going a little long, or you're doing one a minute, which is pretty slow. You on a 6300 on the same antenna, because you've only got one spectral capture unit, you can spin up the other receiver, make N6WM think like you've got 2 radios.
Yes.
And be dialing up the band on 80, 40, it doesn't matter, 20. Hey, I need that guy. Do the, where's my cheat sheet? I've got a little yellow sticker here, that's got all the quick switches for N6WM. Flip over to the other transmitter or flip over to the other receiver, work the guy 40 kilohertz up the band, come back. And it's almost like 2-band SIQ, because the only difference is you really are muted while you're transmitting up the band. And and for a lot of us, that's all we need. And you can really increase your score just with the 6300.
Any Flex radio can increase your score. And, what we get out of the 6600 and the 6700 with the 2 spectral capture units is what they call full duplex, right? Where we can be listening on the other band while we're transmitting on band B, right? So that full duplex, it's really neat because it allows you to get a few more maybe, but just because you don't have full duplex doesn't mean you can't have a presence on multiple bands.
Right.
And,
I was going to say, you could do 80-40 at the same time as well. And by the way, the 63, 64, 65 will do full duplex, not in a contesting mode the way we would like to. But, if you were doing microphone tuning, we have a video on that.
If you've got the right antennas and you've got the right listening antennas, you can make it work. It's not quite as easy as the two flagship radios, but you can make it work. And, the most important thing out of all of this is to take care of your antennas, make sure they're properly separated, that you've taken care of your isolation to try and prevent things like happened to Ed, and have a front end overload. You don't want that to happen. And so you want to work through those problems. But other than that, once you've got that done, the radio platform can take care of that. So.
Yep. Well, we went way long. So, but I hope you found this interesting, and we can always do more of these. Chris is a wealth of information. We don't tend to focus on contesting, but our contesters do push the limit of what can work and blow up. And
I'm also a DXer too. I'm not just a contester. I got 320 entities.
Well, you got a few on me, and we'll get Lou on from the Lou contest a little bit, but Lou's about the the everyman guy and what most of us operate, and he'll talk about that, and hopefully in a couple of weeks, I'll probably we'll talk about some 6-meter moon mounts, and which is something worth listening to, by the way. If you've got a 6-meter beam on a rotor and your noise floor is pretty quiet, you can get on and just start listening to see if you can hear these guys. And they coordinate on a website called ON4KST, Oscar November 4, Kilo Sierra Tango. And you go, hey, they're on 50.190. Go see if you can hear them. If that in itself is pretty cool. And I get on there and I say, hey, I'm on SWL mode. Where are you guys transmitting? If you can run 4 or 5 elements on 6 meters at 1,000 watts on JT65 B or A or whatever, the big guns will work you. They'll take the time to work you. And how cool is that to add to your logbook? First, and I've been a ham not too long. What did I say? 1974, and there's still first things I'm doing. And Chris is still just scratching the surface. We'll get him on other stuff. Chris, thank you very much.
My pleasure. It was nice talking to you, and it was great to see everybody listening out there. And feel free to give me you can either drop me an email. I'm good on QRZ.
That's what I was going to ask.
To people all the time, and feel free to reach out to me. I try and help folks out, and I'll do the best that I can.
Yeah, his email address, I usually paste it in here. I went and looked it up, is callsign@largeradio.org. That's his QRZ address. Yep. And everybody can email Andreas, his boss, and said you enjoyed this. So anyway.
All right, Mike.
Thanks, everybody. 73.
Bye. 73, everybody. Take care.